Episode number 28 of the Society Life podcast. Short solo cast again. It's okay. There's a lot of good insight with these short solo casts, and for today, I'm going to be discussing my personal philosophy. Something that I try to, whenever people do ask me about different segments about the podcast, a lot of the stuff that I do a lot of research on, and then I'll experiment, keep what I really like and what's working for me, and I'll either blog about it. Actually, blog would be more of a video with this, as you don't want to see me type. But I'll podcast about it, I'll tell other people about it, or I'll maybe even type about it on Instagram or something like that. But this episode is a short solo cast, and it's going to be more personal philosophies that I've kind of adapted, that I'm using currently right now as of today, August 30th, 2019. And it's going to be discussing training and mind control. I have talked a little bit about mind stuff before. I know I've talked about that on the YouTube stuff before, and our YouTube channel and on the Instagram account. Not so much on the pod though. So the reason I'm bringing up this personal philosophy of training and mind control is because it's a big part of my life. It's something that I do every single day except for Sunday. And so, sorry, I got distracted for a second. So yeah, it's every single day except for Sunday, and there's a personal philosophy. Sunday, I just use it as a complete rest day. So to start this whole thing off, there was a study conducted at Boston University, and with this study, it was making an effort to stay healthy keeps the brain active and healthy long term. So something that's keeping you active, thinking like fitness related, and they specify with cardiorespiratory, so anything cardio related. They weren't too specific on what kind of cardio, so I would venture to say that the cardiorespiratory could be anything from like a 60-minute workout that involves a little bit of weights, some interval training, some slow, nice cardio, not every single day, but some slow cardio that lets your heart rate just drop down a little bit. Anything that gets the mind active or gets the body active helps keep your brain healthy long term. So it was an interesting study. I will put the link in the show notes, so if you're on iTunes or SoundCloud or something and you see the description of the show, just look very at the bottom, they'll be in there. But yeah, fitness keeps your mind looking good, even though you can't see it. So yeah, that was an interesting study that I had found. So one other personal philosophy that I have is getting my workout done early in the day, because I found that once I get to around 4 p.m., a lot of shit starts coming up. So it's either I didn't do this, or I forgot to do that from last week, or my kid is having a meltdown here at the gym. Something is always seeming like it's coming up. So, and honestly, I personally just feel a lot better whenever I just get it done out of the way super early. And when I say super early, I would ideally like 6 a.m., but this is gonna tie into another personal philosophy that I have. I can't do 6 a.m. because of my fasting window, which is later or a little bit further down my list. But so I push my workout to as early as possible, so more about in the realm of 8 a.m. It still allows it to get done in the morning, and then I have a lot of time after that 8 a.m. window. So yeah, getting my workout done early in the morning before shit just comes up. So that way there is no excuse. Get it done before everything else, before you even check your email, because I've been making that a habit too. Get this stuff done that's good for me out of the way before what life has to throw at me. So that way, what life throws at me, the important stuff's already done, and it won't be neglected, or my mind won't be wandering while I'm trying to do physical activity. Let's just say like after things have already been thrown at me. It's harder for me to concentrate. So yeah, working out early in the morning is very beneficial. Working out also serves as doing, if you think of it in these perspectives, these are just one way that I've been actually trying to think of working out and fitness in general from these perspectives. So whenever in my my personal background, I talked a little bit about my football history. So whenever I was playing football, we had that structured routine of working out. So that workout served football. So that was specific to that. My next shift was whenever I was doing CrossFit. Whenever I started CrossFit, I wanted to compete in CrossFit. So that training was a direct correlation to that. So now I've shifted this perspective, and this perspective has taken me time to really just kind of adapt it and mold it, and it still is being molded to what I want it to be exactly, and I don't know what that is yet. But for right now, currently, my training serves as obviously to make me look good naked, and for health and longevity. So, and one other really cool thing that I've adapted into, and I really do enjoy this, is the working out is serving as something hard. So whenever I'm doing the workout, especially burpees, my favorite movement, doing something hard that you can then in turn apply to something hard later on down the road or that day. So the reason I like burpees so much is because I like life. Life puts you down, you got to get back up. You can choose to stay on the ground if you want, but you won't finish the rep. So burpees are great because it's a great reminder of hard shit gets thrown at you and you got to get back up and react. It's just the next time, how are you going to make that burpee a lot better? So rather than just falling to the floor, so yeah, something hard that you learn and you can apply to different areas in your life. So like I said, the burpees, or like an interval training or an EMOM of something of just straight burpees, it's going to be hard as shit, or you should at least want it to be hard, because that hard point is then something that you can push over into something else that is hard, that is not fitness related. That's one personal philosophy that I've recently adopted that I really, really enjoy. High intensity resistance training, CrossFit, high intensity training, HIIT, they're all the same thing. It's just they're labeled different sections. In my biased opinion, is because of marketing. So and sports too. Sports is another thing. These are two things that I personally try to mold together. So high intensity training, so HIIT training or CrossFit, same thing like I said, because that's going to go into the study that I was talking about with the cardiorespiratory. That's my form of cardio, especially if there's no weights in it, because then it's just purely cardio. Let's just say it was just straight 10 minutes of burpees, my ideal workout. It's a little boring. I'll probably mix it up and do some intervals with it, or some EMOM with that one. Dumbbell burpees are personal favorite too. But yeah, high intensity training, it's going to help with the brain. It's going to help with the obviously the physical appearance and everything like that, but making things hard. And then I put plus sports, because the sports keeps everything varied. I'm not competing in football or anything, but when I play flag football, I like to think that I'm a fucking monster out there. Same with basketball. I try to play basketball. Probably not. I'm not like great at it, but every once in a while I'll try to play basketball. But I'll try to mix it up and play some other kind of sports. I have a longboard that I like to ride that has a motor on it. So before you guys all say, so you like to ride a longboard? Yeah, it has a motor, and I crashed on it, and I got some nice scars from it too, but I like to show off. So yeah, mixing the sport with the high intensity training. And then one thing, now going into the next personal philosophy. I know it sounds like I'm kind of jumping around everywhere on this. One thing for the next personal philosophy, and I've talked about this one specifically on other podcasts, is nose breathing while I work out. So for the high intensity training days, those days are harder to nose breathe. So most of the time you really can't nose breathe them. But there are maybe 3 days a week that I won't do high intensity training, or I'll just step it down a notch. And so being conscious and focused while I train is helping it spill over for other aspects of my life too. So how do I stay conscious is the nose breathing. It's harder, like I said, whenever we're doing high intensity training, you don't think about the breathing as much, and it's a lot harder to do the nose breathing for that. But whenever I'm able to do a specific training session just nose breathing it, I have to be conscious in and out, in and out, in and out, because if you're not, you'll just go back to the habit of just opening your mouth whenever you're breathing hard. The second thing that nose breathing does is it helps regulate the training, so it keeps it slow intentionally. So the rule of thumb for this is the whole entire thing has to be nose breathing. Let's just say it's a burpee. I've like to think that I've mastered the nose breathing with the burpee, There's multiple breaths within it, not just one up and then down up. There's multiple different breaths depending on the individual. But so yeah, the nose breathing, and you start the workout nose breathing. The second you have to open your mouth because you've gone a little too hard over that threshold, you just stop completely until you can regain breath through your nose. This is all forcing you to be conscious. And the other nice thing is it's almost holding you in a realm of being so conscious that you're not thinking of, oh shoot, I gotta go do this or I gotta go do that. It's holding you right here. And then that's another thing that's very applicable towards other things that you're doing in your life, because I struggle with that personally, is staying conscious and focused. So I need to do things that reinforce habits and reinforce patterns for me to then translate over to that. So nose breathing, I'll at least make that mandatory at least 3 days a week, or not, yeah, 3 days a week, depending on how my body feels. Depending on the day, I will at least make it a habit of 3 workouts that week will be nose breathing workout that is forced consciousness for there. So that's also benefiting the brain as well. But high intensity, like I said, it's harder to do. So the best you can with high intensity, but 3 days a week I find is very, very beneficial for me. Now this one is very interesting, and there's a few different meanings behind circadian rhythm, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have all heard about. Circadian rhythm is basically like what you sleep in, whenever you fall asleep, what's your circadian rhythm, and correlation to like the sun, and when you get up in the morning and all that stuff, like waking up without an alarm clock. That's one part of it. But also I look at it from the fitness standpoint, and this is how I determine if I'm going to be nose breathing that workout that day or not. Because if my body feels like shit that day, I will probably not force it and go super fast or high intensity in that workout that day. So if the workout calls for, let's just say, deadlifts at a heavier weight, actually this happened the other day, deadlifts at a heavier weight with some rowing at this first part of this interval, and then it had burpees over the bar. What was the second move? I think it was like a single leg accessory deadlift movement. So on a day like that, when I felt kind of thrashed, I was just listening to the circadian rhythm or how my body was feeling. I knew I needed to turn it to a nose breathing day, because I like to work out still, but just slower. So I do not have any weights in the workout that crush my central nervous system. So the deadlifts I then changed into like a banded good morning, or I'll change it into a stretch of some sort. So for instance, the workout was every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. Minute 1 was 12 deadlifts, I believe, at 185. So what I did was I just did 12 strict leg banded good mornings, nice and slow. The other option I could have done is just 30 seconds left leg banded hamstring stretch, 30 seconds right leg banded hamstring stretch, just maintaining nasal breathing the whole time. Minute 2 was max calories on the rower, maintain the nasal breathing, just still calories on the rower though. Then there was our transition. Then we went into the next EMOM, which was minute 1 was just alternating accessory deadlift movement. So what I did was just kept the body weight, no weight for it, because I didn't want to crush my central nervous system, but still maintaining the nasal breathing. And then minute 2 is the burpees, so just reducing the reps, but keeping the burpees with that nasal breathing the whole time. So yeah, that's listening to circadian rhythm, knowing when to slow down, and listening on those days to your body, of knowing, okay, today maybe just do some nose breathing, or today I feel good, I'm going to do some high intensity, which today I felt really good, yesterday was not. So yeah, that's circadian rhythm. Next personal philosophy is intermittent fasting. This is fairly new for me though. So I've been experimenting with this. I've been doing it for probably 8 months. I stopped at probably month, altogether 8 months. So about 5 months in, I stopped because I was in a process of trying to gain weight. I needed to eat more meals in the morning. And then I actually re-picked it back up probably a month and a half ago. The main reason I like intermittent fasting is that you don't have to make any decisions in the morning. I just get up and I start my morning routine, and I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat. So that's one of the main reasons why I like it. But there is a lot of huge benefits for it from studies that I've read and studies and research that I've seen, people who I've talked to. One of the biggest reasons I like it though is obviously the biggest one was no decisions, but another reason is it's good for heart health. So whenever people ask me, why are you doing it? Because, well, for my heart health, my family has high cholesterol. Actually, I have high cholesterol. So right now I'm currently experimenting with this method and seeing if it works. So I'll be getting my blood work done. So hopefully it does, because I really do enjoy it. But yeah, there are studies saying that intermittent fasting is good for the heart. And that's probably the overall main health reason. I have shredded a little bit of body fat though. I've noticed my muscles do get I've gotten a little bit bigger since I've started doing it the second time. And I've lost just a little bit of body fat. But overall, like I said, I hope the blood work pans out, because I really, really enjoy it. And then what I'll do with the intermittent fasting is whenever my window does open, I will kind of couple that with a paleo-ish diet. So CrossFit's prescription of paleo is eat meats, veggies, nuts, and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. That's fine. I just kind of adopt a different model, if you will. I use the same kind of guidelines, but I'll add a little bit more starches in. My body I have a really fast metabolism. So I shed weight really, really fast. So in order for me to hang on to it, I have to eat more carbs. I have to eat more like rice, potatoes, that kind of stuff. I will have the occasional the cookies and stuff, but I'll limit that to like 1 to 2 days a week where I can eat like an asshole, where I've earned eating like an asshole. Same with pizza. I love pizza. But yeah, for the most part throughout the week, I'm eating pretty on those lines of what I would say paleo-ish. So, but yeah, with the fasting, it's been awesome. And my training as well. And then the last thing, this is also a fairly new one for me, and this is also a really hard one to kind of put into play too. It's this notion of getting space. So setting your boundaries with either something or some people, or in my case, being here at the gym, getting the space to reset and be present in those moments. So all this is great, but if I can't even apply it to what I'm doing outside of my business, to my everyday life, then it probably doesn't even matter. Because yeah, you'll thrive here, but outside the business, I'll be struggling. Which is one spot that I do currently struggle with. Now, I don't think I'm as bad as what I'm saying I am, but the space that I use to kind of disconnect, I talked a little bit about it. Playing Madden was one of them. That's not the only, I'm sorry. That was one of the only childhood things that really stuck with it. Other than that, other space elements that I can get, and I've tried experimenting with other things. I've done I've done jiu-jitsu, I've done boxing, other kind of different training elements to get me out of my natural element of just training and then being here at the gym. Other elements of playful space that I've started to implement in my life is hanging out with my friends, because I never really made time for them. So now I'm making more time for them, which in turn makes me a little bit less stressful for whenever I'm around my family too. So more time specifically with other people rather than just people that are within the business has been a benefit. I've tried reading. I do read, and I do force myself to read a lot more now than I did before, and I'm slowly getting better. I'm shooting for 10 pages a day. But yeah, other than that, the sports is another one too. So because sports are drastically different than the actual training methodology that I'm doing, it takes me out of my element of what I naturally do. So sports is another one. And that can be any kind of sport. That could be even watching sports for me, because that kind of zones me out too. So just anything that gets you that space to kind of disconnect, because there's that notion that entrepreneurs don't disconnect, and that it's just work. When that's true, but from the outside looking in, depending on who the individual is, if they've adopted this idea of playful space, it might look to you that they're actually working as hard as they can, but they have that idea of, okay, I had some space, so I can come in and I can fucking hit it hard. whereas then in turn it looks like they're working hard. Whereas the person who's just work and doesn't have this space, which I've done before, yeah, it looks like you're working hard, but it's going to be coming off of a steep hill, and you're going to eventually burn out, which is, you see it in a lot of different businesses. You see it when the owner doesn't have a vision for what they want for the business, for themselves. You see it and you don't even adopt this playful space, this idea of space. If you don't have it, you can get far, but you probably will get a lot further if you have the disconnection. So yeah, to the outside, if you have that adapted or that playful space kind of built in there, then it's a lot easier for you to do the work, and it doesn't look as strenuous from the outsiders looking in. This is an interesting topic that I really do want to make another podcast about in general, is just working smart and more effectively versus working harder, because there is a difference between the two, and not many people do understand that. I'm not a pro at it, but I'm getting better at it, and I do think I'm way better at it than I was in the 2017 Alex version of me, or the 2018 version. This is 2019, yeah. So this new version is adopting this model of playful space. I'm trusting it. But yeah, this will be an interesting episode of just all this, specifically of working smarter and effectively versus harder. I'll get that one all on another one. But yeah, this is just my personal philosophy for training and mind control. All of these things play into both mind and training. You can't really have one without the other. You can, but for a more effectful, or a more, what's the word I'm trying to think of? For a more well-rounded life, if you adopt that model of mind and training for the body, like mind and body, then it's a lot more beneficial for the individual. So yeah, that's it. This is my personal philosophy on training